The App Tamer might seem a little redundant because it's an app which behaves a lot like your process monitor. However, the App Tamer does some additional things which can help you resolve your computer's problems. The App Tamer screen is divided into two halves. One is the active process list. The lower portion are the apps that you have tamed. For those of you super nerds out there, the App Tamer behaves like the Unix nice command. What makes it special is the App Tamer uses process CPU percentage to determine when a process is behaving in a way that could be detrimental to your everyday activities. What this means is how much of your computer is this specific process using. If it's using a large percentage of your computer while you're doing some other task, maybe this is something you might want to slow down. Sometimes when I'm using iMovie, it begins to chew up CPU time. When I need iMovie to run, I found that Google Chrome interferes with it. Have you ever clicked on something and nothing happened? This happens to Windows machines and Mac machines. The Mac OS is full of quirks and settings that can slow down your computer at any time. Be alerted to when a process is hogging your CPU. I have an app like iMovie, which is a process hog. You will experience fewer quirks with applications that run in parallel with other tasks. You'll experience more immediate actions and fewer delays when you click. As I said earlier, a lot of programs run things in parallel, such as loading fonts. This can create errors in whatever it is you're doing. Manage your computer like an expert. Some people say I'm pretty good on a bike. Some people say I'm really good with a computer. The App Tamer is only about $15 USD. Would you pay $15 for a computer that's new, that is misbehaving, and you need fixed right away? It's easy to license and takes about 30 seconds. I use App Tamer because I have other things I want to do. App Tamer is easy to use. All you need to do is select a specific process from the list and see how it's affecting your computer. Sometimes when I'm using iMovie, it begins to chew up CPU time. When I need iMovie to run, I found that Google Chrome interferes with it. Sometimes while I'm working with iMovie will pause right after I've clicked something. That's super annoying, and it may be a system process at the top of the process list. If your system seems to have stalled, but you're viewing the App Tamer, and the App Tamer is showing a system process at the top of the list, you might want to look into system bugs for your current version of your operating system. Sometimes the App Tamer can detect misbehavior of the current app, simply because you're doing too much work. If this happens, you can restart the app and notice the changed behavior by watching the App Tamer. When I played a video in a browser in the background while I was working with iMovie in the foreground, iMovie tended to run really slow. When I app tamed the browser, you'll notice that the audio is starting to break up. That is telling me that the App Tamer has slowed down the browser so that iMovie can perform better. There are three things you should really monitor when you're monitoring your system. It is CPU, memory, and I/O. Your system monitor can tell you how much I/O is transpiring and how much memory you're using. The App Tamer only focuses on CPU usage. In this way, the App Tamer is a little limited, but it does give you a great way to trim or manage how much CPU certain processes use. By definition, you'll be able to manage how often those processes use I/O and memory to complete their tasks. The website claims that I can direct certain processes to certain cores to improve multitasking. However, the Mac version that I'm using doesn't have such a feature. The key to making the App Tamer work for you is to identify process hogs, processes that take up too much CPU, and be alerted to when there's a process hog, and be prompted to allow that process hog to continue or to be halted. When I installed the App Tamer, I noticed a new CPU metric at the top of my screen in the upper right-hand corner. I can click on this metric quickly to view the App Tamer and quickly identify any process hogs that are slowing down my computing at this very moment. You can see at this time, iMovie and QuickTime Player are competing for resources in my computer. The App Tamer has a green line on its activity chart to tell you when it's actively making things better for you without your own actions. Once I had tamed about half a dozen processes, I started to notice that my computing was getting smoother and smoother, and my actions a lot faster. Okay, I gotta admit, it's pretty bad when you install something and start making changes to your computer that you break some of the default applications that are installed with your computer. But I've done a lot of testing, and I can't think of anything else that's broken on my machine that I use from day to day. You're just going to have to learn that sometimes these things happen. When they do, you just have to put it in your back pocket and ignore it. And your overall computing experience will become a lot better. Yes, you have to take some risks, and you have to be prepared to undo whatever it is that you do. But in the end, everything will be a lot faster. If I'm not doing anything, and I see a kernel task taking up way too much processing time, hey, I'm going to start detaching all of my unused thumb drives and maybe even shutting down iCloud. Anything that I don't want to do at this time. Then I can focus on the task at hand. These are just some of the tricks to happier computing. You can take a 10-year-old computer, unscrew the back, and install the most memory you could possibly install on that computer. Configure the software correctly, tame some of the system processes, and your computer will behave like a brand new computer flying along at incredible speeds, only because you configured it correctly and got rid of some of the mess. You don't need super fast multiple core systems to make computers run fast these days. All you need to do is make sure that the process hogs aren't hogging up CPU time. After I started taming a few apps, for some reason, the Mac OS applications for doing spreadsheets and word processing started to misbehave. I was unable to start these applications, which I never really use anyway. There's a lot of information online and videos on YouTube about these applications and what they can do for you, but I like to buy the more professional stuff. You can see here as I mouse over the question marks, it seems to know that one of them was pages and the other one was numbers. However, when I click on them, nothing happens. These applications are clearly broken, and I have a feeling I broke them because I had tamed certain operating system processes that are needed to run full time while the system is loading, and that may have broken them. But I'm not too worried about them at all. I was a little surprised that pages and numbers didn't have their own icons somewhere on the desktop. They were only available on the dock. One of the things you have to remember is that App Tamer does a really great job of fixing things like applications you've downloaded or things you use on a daily basis that you're perfectly aware of, like Spotify. However, there's a lot of things that your machine does, such as Mac OS, that you're not always aware of. such as family sharing, or sharing photos from one device to another, or sharing movies from one device to another, or backing up your movies from your main hard drive to the iCloud. When you start thinking about movies, then you're talking about gigabytes of data transferring very slowly up to the cloud. This takes up CPU, it takes up I/O, and it takes up memory. And all these things, when they're consumed, can slow down your computer. Sometimes when I'm doing my work, I don't want anything working with the iCloud because that is just slowing me down. Every time I click, nothing happens. Then for a while, everything returns to normal. Then suddenly, everything I click, nothing happens. This is the nature of operating systems. Sometimes I'll start up my mail client and I'll notice that my mouse is misbehaving. It's jumping across the screen. That's a warning sign that your system's resources are being chewed up by an application that you're currently running, such as mail. Usually happens when I have a lot of attachments to load or I haven't read my mail in a while. There are other times when there are things that are loading, such as when I'm using GIMP and I'm loading images. That also causes the mouse to jump around a little bit. And it can sometimes cause things like my browser to slow down or stop playing a video or a song. So this is also a time when the system resources are being used up, and they're being used in a way that is detrimental to certain processes that you want to work, such as when you're listening to audio or watching a video. When you tame the right process, you should be able to listen to your music or watch your videos at the same time you're doing other tasks. If you tame a process like a browser, you might affect the way a video plays back on YouTube, especially when it's pushed into the background. You can see here that I've tamed about 12 processes. Some of them everyday processes, some of them system processes. You'll notice that Safari is listed, but I don't use Safari. For some reason, the system seems to use that now and then, even though I'm doing nothing with the browser. So, I have tamed that process. I have tamed my mail client, because sometimes it gets so busy that it chews up my resources and I can't make movies. Sometimes the Finder can get super busy. Let's say I have 3 or 4 windows open. Maybe I'm copying files, and I want to have that tamed so I can do other things. I don't care how long it takes to copy a file while I'm working on other things. Just let it copy, and it usually gets done pretty fast. There's things like the Time Machine backup and Spotlight Indexer. These are things that I don't care about so much. I'm really not actively backing up this machine. I have a copy somewhere on a thumb drive. The Spotlight Indexer, I don't need the indexing system to keep churning away while I'm busy making movies. I only need that to work when I need to save something that I need to search for later. So I have tamed that process. I have tamed Google Chrome in such a way that when I push it into the background, it tends to slow down. That way it doesn't interfere with me making movies. The photo agent, yes, that sometimes bubbles up to the top and gets very busy. Another thing that I'd like to tame is the music agent. When that goes into the background, that can get really, really busy, and I don't want it to be. I only want to listen to music when I've got it in the foreground. So those are some of the things that you might want to tame while you're using your App Tamer. When I first got the App Tamer, I downloaded the Apple DMG file and opened it up and just clicked on the App Tamer. I did not install it by dragging it to the Applications folder. When I used it, it worked, but when I rebooted, it didn't work. If you really want to install the App Tamer, drag it to the Applications folder. Then it will behave correctly on reboot. There's really two ways to try it. One without properly installing it, and the other way with it fully installed. And you can see the difference in how it behaves. You can see here I can't find it anywhere after I restart. The App Tamer has some cool features. You can control when things happen. You can control the notification feature. You can control how often the App Tamer scans your system. You can adjust the advanced metric display feature. You can control backups and when your Mac is updated. This application is designed like a more advanced piece of software, but it does have some bugs. For instance, some screens get a little scrambled. I want to thank you for watching the World's Dirtiest Workshop. This is Christopher Thunder, and have a great day.